Please be seated. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite Mr. Chris Tobin, representative of the Darug people, to offer the traditional welcome to country. Mr. Tobin.
Thank you. Warami, and welcome to the lands of the Wallamedigal. I belong to one of the local Aboriginal families of the Darug people, the traditional custodians over this part of the country. I wish to thank the University for their acknowledgement of us and for the invitation to welcome you all here this afternoon. That acknowledgement is important for our people and much appreciated, particularly by our elders. Education is highly valued in Aboriginal culture as well. Knowledge meant survival, and our elders are traditionally accorded great respect for their accumulated wisdom and experience. My family descend from Yarramundi, a respected elder and cleverman of the Burrabrongal clan during the early years of colonisation. He saw that our best chance of survival in this new world would be to learn more about it. As such, he enrolled his daughter, Maria, into the Native Institution. It was a school set up in 1815 by Governor Macquarie himself, offering formal education to Aboriginal children. Maria studied there for several years and used her newly acquired skills to lobby and ultimately secure some land for herself and her family out along the Richmond Road. Other Aboriginal families soon joined them, and it became known as the Blackstown, where the present-day city of Blacktown gets its name from. We are very proud of her, as I'm sure your families are of you here today. And with good reason. Your progress progresses us all. Your advancement is our advancement. Now, that was perhaps more readily understood in traditional times when camps were smaller and clan groups abided by strict sharing laws, which meant that the food that you caught and brought back got distributed throughout the rest of the camp. Your skills and good fortune literally nourished the rest of the community, and you in turn were looked after by them. Yes, we can live quite beautifully when we get clever about it. Our Aboriginal ancestors certainly lived well in many respects, and I use occasions like this to offer them to yourselves as a model or a role model or a benchmark on how good to expect our lives today. You see, when Captain Cook arrived at Botany Bay, just south of here a little over 240 years ago, he described the people he encountered there as one of the happiest people he'd met in the world. They had nothing, he wrote, but the tools that they carried. They made shelters from the bark of trees without cutting them down. They harvested food from the earth without tilling it. In traditional times, everyone was accorded rights to the country or clan area where he or she was born into. So there was no homelessness and no rich and poor either. Everyone had pretty much the same amount of gear, what you could carry. There were no armies or jails or even police. We have no history of slavery or empire building. People cooperated to collect resources that were needed, and then they were shared out according to strict Aboriginal law. Our lands are maintained in their natural state. Rivers were clean and unpolluted, with people drinking out of them here as they have done for the past 20,000 years. Now remember, this is not an ideal, this is normal life, or should be. And there's no reason that we should expect less for ourselves and our children than what our ancestors enjoyed. Admittedly, there's a lot more of us now, so we've got to get clever about it. But I would say expect great things from your life then, and do great things. There's still a lot of magic in the world, and I think together we can put together a country that we can be proud of and that's worthy of our children. But we can't do it alone. We've all got to pitch in here. Now I'll do my bit and wind up and let you good people graduate. Just congratulations to all of you, and all the best in our collective futures. Welcome to country. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce the Chancellor of Macquarie University, the Honourable Michael Egan. Mr. Egan.
Well, graduands, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and I see we do have some tiny tots with us today, and even from what I can hear, a couple of babies. Now, this is going to be a fairly long graduation ceremony, and one thing is certain: babies and small children make a noise, the babies start to cry. We have a firm rule here: If the baby's making a noise, you are not to take... No, come back. You're not to take them outside. You're to stay where you are. We've all heard babies cry. None of us will be bothered by that. I've heard worse. In fact, I was in Parliament for 25 years, so it won't bother me one little bit. But there's another thing too. If a baby cries through a graduation ceremony, we've discovered that they're back within 25 years to get a PhD. So I suggest that some of these freshly minted PhDs here today, 20 or so years ago, would have been wailing through a graduation ceremony. So please stay and enjoy the ceremony. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is my very great privilege today as Chancellor of Macquarie University to preside at this very important ceremony. First, I welcome all of our graduands, and I hope that today will be a really happy and a very memorable occasion for all of you. But it will only be a happy occasion if you all relax. Some of you look relaxed, but not all of you. Some of you look nervous and apprehensive. Trust me, there's nothing to be nervous about. You have all already passed your exams, so you don't have to worry about that. The very worst thing that can happen to you today is that when you come up on the dais, you trip and fall over. Now, that has happened. In fact, I've got to say, it often makes the ceremony. But if that does happen, we've got everything covered, we pick you up, and we usually have someone specially designated as the picker-up of fallen students. And today, that person has come all the way from the Barossa Valley in South Australia, and it's none other than Maggie Beer, who later on will be giving the occasional address. So please, graduands, relax, enjoy the day, because you do deserve to take pride in your graduation. Completing a degree is never easy. You need an intelligent and inquiring mind, you need determination and perseverance, and you need to make many sacrifices. So welcome and congratulations to each and every one of you. Today I also want to welcome, and especially welcome, those of you who are sitting behind our graduands as their invited guests. Because if you think about it for a moment, you've all obviously done very well too. The very fact that you're here, the fact that you've been invited by one of our graduands to share one of the great days of their lives is proof positive that you've been very important in their lives and in the successes that we celebrate today. So mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, cousins, sons and daughters, grandmothers and grandfathers, friends, husbands and wives, partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, lovers, or whatever you are, congratulations and thank you for celebrating this great occasion with us. And I don't want you to think either that observing today's graduation is the end of your role. I have another important service for you to perform for our newest graduates, as they'll soon become. I want you to make sure that the degrees they receive today are never ever put in a bottom drawer, but are always proudly displayed in a position of prominence. In other words, if our graduands are too shy or self-effacing to proclaim their own success, you make sure you do it for them. Now, the ceremony that we're about to participate in is one of the world's oldest social rituals. For centuries, graduates have been donning robes just like the ones our graduands are wearing today, and participating in ceremonies just like this one. Indeed, there are some 50 universities in the world which can trace their history back more than 500 years. Macquarie, by comparison, is relatively young. We're only 49 years of age. But in those 49 years, we've come a long way. We now have more than 145,000 Macquarie graduates living in more than 140 countries. Macquarie is a very modern and outward-looking university. We're regarded as one of Australia's leading research universities and are currently extending our research as we are our course offerings and our facilities. We're always trying to engage with the world around us. We've forged strong alliances with the community and with industry and are very keen to establish more. On your way here today, you may have seen our new Macquarie University Hospital, which is used by the students and academics in our School of Advanced Medicine. Now, it's only about 3 years old. It's a super duper private hospital, and of course, besides its major function of treating sick people, it's really essential for our School of Advanced Medicine. We are the only university in Australia with its own private hospital. Some universities in the United States have them, we're the only one here. You may also have seen our new library, which was opened, I think, last year, or it might have been the year before, and which really is the envy of every university in the land. And only this year, our new Advanced Hearing Hub was opened, excuse me, which is a world-leading institute dedicated to advances in hearing, speech and language science. So we're looking forward, and we are on the move. We want Macquarie always to be a leader in teaching and learning, and a leader in the accumulation of knowledge and understanding. In other words, an ideal community of scholars. And graduands, in just a few minutes, it will be my very great honour to confer your degrees upon you and welcome you as lifelong members of that community of scholars we proudly call Macquarie University. Thank you.
Chancellor, I call on Mrs. Lauren McClellan, who is graduating today with a Doctor of Philosophy with a degree of Masters of Clinical Psychology, to speak on behalf of the graduating group. Mrs. McClellan.
Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, members of the University, fellow graduands and guests. At an important occasion like today, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Darug people, and pay my respect to elders past and present. Today is a day of celebration for us and for all the people who have helped support us throughout our studies. Amongst the busyness of life, it is occasions like today that provide us with the opportunity to stop and reflect on our experiences of university, appreciate the privilege of gaining a quality education, and ponder the direction that we'd like our life to take. For all of us, graduating today represents the completion of many exams, reports, at least some sleepless nights, the consumption of a large quantity of caffeine and possibly alcohol, a few trips to the physio or chiropractor, and endless commutes to and from campus, when we decided against iLearn in favour of face-to-face interaction, or decided to brave the risk of not getting a parking space on campus after 11 a.m. But over and above these trivial details, today represents a great deal of hard work, commitment, and determination. And it is important that we acknowledge our hard work and achievements today. We can wear this robe and cap with pride, knowing that we are amongst the few who graduate with a world-class higher degree education. Today represents the completion of what has been a lifelong goal for me, and I'm sure my story resembles the experiences of many of you sitting in the audience today. From the age of 7, I told my family I wanted to be a doctor. The doctor I was referring to was a medical doctor, but we need not be sticklers for detail. My motivation for my career choice at 7 was surprisingly accurate: to help take care of people. And today I graduate with a PhD and Masters of Clinical Psychology, and my career motivation and aspirations continue to be to take care of people, although in a slightly different way than I imagined as a child. For me, the change in direction from medicine to psychology was driven by 2 things. First, not wanting to be a student for as long as it would take to be a medical doctor, which I now realise the irony of, graduating 9 years after beginning university. But more importantly, being inspired by the passion of the academics I heard talking about their psychology careers at Macquarie. Despite feeling a spark ignite inside me while listening to Dr. John Franklin share his interest for psychology with passion and animation at an open day lecture, I second-guessed this, stewing over university course preferences right until the very last moment. And to some degree, experienced full-blown doubt after moving from being a high achiever with lots of friends at a local high school to running drastically late for my first lecture on my first day of university and not being able to find a seat in Macquarie Theatre. Totally invisible amongst the hundreds of unknown students who I felt I had no chance of ever getting to know, let alone grasping the range of theories, important researchers, and landmark experiments covered in introductory psychology. And there were other moments of uncertainty and struggle along the way. Yet what never wavered was the influence of the lecturers standing in front of me and the hundreds of other students, who I did eventually get to know, at least a few anyway. These teachers inspired me to learn and develop an interest in psychology and research. Through their passion, I wanted to know more, 9 years worth. And now I feel equally passionate about clinical research and the importance of sharing this passion with others. I am certain that throughout our degrees, we have gained a lot of factual knowledge and learnt many practical skills. But I hazard a guess that it is this type of self-discovery and self-learning that will continue to impact our lives long into the future, well after the factual knowledge has left our memories. It is the impact our experience of learning has on us that I suspect will shape our futures. And so, it is important that we recognise the contribution of all those people who have assisted us, supported us, encouraged and inspired us throughout our studies. On behalf of every graduand here today, I extend my sincere thanks to the university staff, both academic and administrative, who are amongst the most professional, engaging and friendly educators I have interacted with. I acknowledge our peers and colleagues who shared the experience of university with us, and offer heartfelt gratitude to the friends and family who made it possible for us to be here today. As we look forward today to new adventures and the prospects of the unknown experiences that lay ahead of us, I hope that we can give ourselves the freedom to be true to ourselves, engage passionately with the world, remain appreciative of the opportunities our Macquarie University education will provide for us, in combination with our determination and hard work, and take the time to reflect and learn about ourselves throughout it all. It has been an incredible honour to speak on behalf of the graduands, and I would like to extend my personal congratulations to you all. May the road ahead be full of passion-filled careers and ongoing self-discovery. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, Lauren, on a great speech, and congratulations too on becoming a Master of Clinical Psychology and a Doctor of Philosophy. That's quite an achievement. I must say you sounded like a very ambitious and idealistic 7-year-old. I remember when I was 7, my aspirations went no further than being the lift driver at David Jones. Now, you don't have lift drivers anymore, so I'm glad I didn't take up that profession. But I'm sure, although when you think about it, being a lift driver in those days was pretty important, otherwise people wouldn't have got to wherever they wanted to go to. But I'm sure you're going to do a tremendous job throughout your career and will help innumerable people, and I hope that you'll always maintain a close association with Macquarie University. And by the way, just because you're a Master of Clinical Psychology and just because you're a Doctor of Philosophy doesn't mean you can't come back and do another PhD. So keep that in mind. Well, ladies and gentlemen and graduands, we now come to the key part of the ceremony, the reason we're here today, and that's the conferring of degrees. Now, I admit that this is the only part of the ceremony that makes me a little bit nervous, because I'm told that if I confer a degree on someone who's not eligible to graduate, there's nothing I can do to take it back. So before I confer your degrees, I'm going to get an absolute ironclad guarantee from one of our Deputy Vice-Chancellors that in fact you are all eligible, that none of you ever missed a class, and none of you were ever late submitting an assignment. Deputy Vice-Chancellor, can you give me that guarantee, please?
Chancellor, I certify that all the candidates being presented here today and those who are absent have satisfied the requirements of Academic Senate for the degrees and diplomas they are to be awarded. Would all candidates for admission to degrees and diplomas please stand?
Believe it or not, that's you, yes. Well, graduands, in the name of the Council of Macquarie University and by my authority as Chancellor, I admit each of you present and those who are absent to the degrees or diplomas for which you have qualified. Graduates, congratulations.
Will you please be seated? Chancellor, the graduates at this ceremony are from the Faculty of Human Science and also the Faculty of Business and Economics. The Faculty of Human Sciences teaches courses and conducts research about people, investigating the how and why. It is home to a number of internationally recognised research centres, conducting groundbreaking research across disciplines in areas like cognitive science and early childhood education. Exciting opportunities exist for students and researchers alike. This faculty includes research and study areas in advanced medicine, education, linguistics, psychology, early childhood, cognitive sciences and health promotion and professions. The Faculty of Business and Economics is the largest faculty at Macquarie and is one of the largest in Australia. A broad range of programs in some of the most exciting and topical areas of business and economics are offered, which continue to be in high demand domestically and internationally. Chancellor, I now call on Professor Janet Greeley, the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Human Sciences, to present the graduates and diplomates. Professor Greeley.
Chancellor, I present to you the graduates and diplomates from the Faculty of Human Sciences whom you have admitted to degrees or awarded diplomas. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy with the Master of Clinical Neuropsychology, Dr. Tanya Mary Malouf, for a thesis entitled Development of the Insight Interview, a new tool assessing longitudinal change in awareness deficits following traumatic brain injury. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy with the Master of Clinical Psychology, Dr. Erica Marie Crome, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for a thesis entitled Latent Structure of Social Phobia. Dr. Lauren Frances McClellan for a thesis entitled Individual Differences in Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, Measuring Pre-Treatment CBT-like Attitudes. Dr. Elizabeth Susan Sperlati for a thesis entitled Adopting the Competencies-Based Approach to the Treatment of Child and Adolescent Anxiety and Depressive Disorders. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Dr. Kayla Christina Brockveld, for a thesis entitled The Relationship Between Five-Factor Model of Personality Traits and Social Anxiety. Dr. Peter DeLissa for a thesis entitled Using Fixation-Related Potentials to Investigate Cognitive Processes. Dr. Max Harry Farrell Whelan for a thesis entitled Towards a Relative Motion Processing Account of Direction and Speed Perception. Dr. Melissa Ann Inglot for a thesis entitled The Role of PACAP in Central Cardiorespiratory Control. Dr. Luz Coulevain for a thesis entitled Balancing Stimulus and Goal-Driven Attentional Demands, Investigating the Role of Gamma Oscillations in Human Early Visual Cortex using Magnetoencephalography. Dr. Jeanette Barbara Lightfoot for a thesis entitled The Transition to Fatherhood, Attachments and Adaptation. Dr. Jonathan David McGuire for a thesis entitled Moral Primacy, Actions and Omissions. Dr. Sabarul Afian Mokhtar for a thesis entitled Development of a Model for Assessment and Predicting Outcome in Surgery for Degenerative Disorder of the Lumbosacral Spine. Dr. Stephen Pritchard for a thesis entitled Incorporating Learning Mechanisms into the Dual-Root Cascaded Model of Reading Aloud and Word Recognition. Dr. Israt Sahan Shahid for a thesis entitled Orexin A in the Central Control of Cardiorespiratory Regulation. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Doctor of Psychology, Clinical Neuropsychology. Dr. Bronwyn Coward for a thesis entitled Predictors of Cognitive Outcome Following Traumatic Brain Injury, a retrospective study. Dr. Linda Sigmundsdottir for a thesis entitled Cognitive and Psychological Functioning in Fabry Disease. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Doctor of Psychology, Clinical Psychology. Dr. Elaine Allison Barrett for a thesis entitled An Investigation of Trainers' Views of Behavioral Problems in Thoroughbred Racehorses in Training and Racing. Dr. Jessica Vivian Klug for a thesis entitled maternal exposure to traumatic and stressful events, the effects of parenting practices, and child psychological well-being. Dr. Wee Chung Tan for a thesis entitled Functional Gastrointestinal Disorders, Psychological Characteristics. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Doctor of Psychology, Organizational Psychology, Dr. Larissa Jane Anderson for a thesis entitled Workplace Incivility, Extending Research to the Day Level. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Clinical Neuropsychology, Carly Beth Black. Alicia Marie DeVries. Jody Ellen Kaminga. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Clinical Psychology. Rebecca Cuskelly, who has been awarded the Vice Chancellor's Commendation for Academic Excellence. Chantal Mercanti, who has been awarded the Vice Chancellor's Commendation for Academic Excellence. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Counseling Psychology, Paula Paulhill. Greg John Prescott. Dorian Roderick John Richards. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Medical Practice, Simon David Leslie. Stephen Markowski. Andrew Michael Van Sommeren Boyd. Mary Glynn Therese Weber. Ross Ian White. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Organizational Psychology, Aaron Vito Silvestro. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Social Health, Rosemary Ann Macquarie. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Social Health and Counselling, Yamam Abdulwab Abuzinada. Maria Silla Godri. Jyotika Shankar. I present the diplomate awarded the postgraduate diploma in applied psychology, Kate Lynette Batha. I present diplomates awarded the postgraduate diploma of professional psychology, Lisa Diane Brennan. Caroline Elizabeth Brown. Sally Camilleri. Jessica Velia Cavassini. Katrina Deaver. Caroline Shelley Johnson. I present the diplomate awarded the postgraduate diploma of Social Health and Counselling, Alexandra Carew. I present diplomates awarded the graduate diploma of Advanced Psychology, Deanne Norell Chambers. Amanda Elizabeth Davis. Timothy William Hunter. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Arts Psychology with the Bachelor of Health, Kanchan Mu. Hazel Yingchun Ng. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Arts Psychology with the Diploma of Education, Rachel Anjou. Taryn Lindsay Attrell. Amanda Drakos. Kaylee Peter Lewis. Michael John Montgomery. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Arts Psychology. Alina Agon. Nicholas Everett. Kathleen Fang. Rachel Hadchiti. Brachelle Letitia Holliday. Joel David Hallwarder. Quan Hee Zhang. Tanya Krilich. Michaela Claire Malicki. Candice Alexandra McDonald. Joshua Moses. Lawrence John Alfio Mullen. Eloise May O'Donnell. Katrina Ung. Odric Jeremiah Sarjano. Juhee Yi. Victoria Zane. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Science Psychology. Ashley Fong. Louise Pamela Granger. Christina Leah Hopkins. Christina Huggett. Nancy Huynh. Olivia Nicole Cohen. Vanessa Stephanie Menti. Clara Letitia Nagy. Chancellor, that completes this afternoon's presentation of the graduates and diplomates from the Faculty of Human Sciences.
Chancellor, I now call on Professor Anne Ross-Smith, the Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Business and Economics, to present graduates from the faculty. Professor Ross-Smith.
Chancellor, I present to you the graduates from the Faculty of Business and Economics whom you have admitted 2 degrees. I present the graduate admitted to the Bachelor of Arts with the Bachelor of Commerce, Rachel Louise Steele. I present graduates admitted to the Bachelor of Business Administration with Bachelor of Arts, Carlisle Chan. Dean Doombos. Charlotte Seller. Melissa Tranquil. I present graduates admitted to the Bachelor of Business Administration with Bachelor of Arts Psychology, Dorothy Wing Yu Chan. Emma Frances Layton. I present graduates admitted to the Bachelor of Business Administration with the Bachelor of Commerce Accounting, Brendan Lim. Cheng Cheng Ju. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Business Administration with Bachelor of Commerce Professional Accounting, Rebecca Bao Ling Hong. Kenneth Chun-He Kwon. Cheryl Manman Lim. James Louis. Blake John Matthews. Stephen James Merry. Paul Minogue. Muna T. Selekan. Dominic Charles Santoro. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Jessica Lauren Nyers. Kate Margaret Tarrant. David Sidney Watt. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Business Administration, Christopher Anthony. Yanis Bahamid. David Thomas Kane. Trevor Choi. Chiang Deng. Dong Chi Nan. Chu Tak Dai Yuong. Joshua William English. Michael Fufaro. Lin Lin Gore. Sandra Geisler. James Scott Grayson. Simeon Hall. Sereja Javed. Young Jin. Shaman Kumar. Sorry, I apologise, I've missed a line. Jasmine Kaur. Shaman's turn now. Shaman Kumar. Hung Chi Lam. Tui V. Lam. Leslie Lay. Bryce William Marsden. Samuel Cameron McKibben. Stephanie Moss. Yan Yu Ho. Zachary Ormachea. Giselle Avisipor. Kasidit Panyana. Oi Man Poi. Jason Podetsky. Nikita Punam Prasad. Violetta Prznishnika. Danielle Christine Scale. Alexander Joseph Smith. Son Ju Son. Alan Yenta Tu. Ye Huang. Christian Damala Wijaya. Alice Wong. Joshua Sydney Woods. Chao Shi. Jan Pong Zhang. Michael Sante Zoppolaro. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Commerce, Shafiq Hamad Akbari. Jordan Marcello Attard. Andrew Beard. Sunny Chang. Yuan Zhang. Blaine Leslie Charlton. Christina Che. Sean Chu. Samantha Chaw. Xin Huang. Patrick Yegachevsky. Honorin Kurt. Lydia Le. Richard Le. Chun Hin Yung. Ping Liu. Elise Lowry. Anthea Maroon. Tamara Alicia Mayer. Natalie Nagara. Gemma Catherine Osland. Caroline Panoyan. Manisha Nandita Patali. Irina Perideri Enko. Sundaria Rahavanan. David Rima. Alexander Wrighton. Alessandro Romano. Gabriel Santos. Ashley Small. Sashaya Sultana. Vanessa Tan. Megha Tripathi. Kim Brittany Vanderpoel. Natalie Zavaglia. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Human Resources Management, Shantala Shirin Pryor. Chancellor, that completes this afternoon's presentation of graduates from the Faculty of Business and Economics.
Well, now, that wasn't too bad, was it? That glorious voice, ladies and gentlemen, belongs to Angela Brewer. Would you like to hear Angela sing just a little bit more? Yes. Okay, well, it's all very simple. All you have to do is enrol in another degree, and when you come back next time, I promise you, Angela will be singing at your next graduation. I think she deserves another great round of applause. And also deserving a great round of applause are our fabulous musicians. Over there on the organ, Dr. James Forsyth. There he is. And on the Chinese flute, Mr. Chai Cheng Ning. And also at our graduations, we always have some really nice people who come along to help. They're our alumni volunteers, and they come along to make sure that everything goes smoothly on your graduation. I think they deserve a great round of applause. Most of them are over there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, graduates, as part of this graduation, we honour a member of staff from the Faculty of Human Sciences who has made outstanding contributions to student learning at Macquarie University. I now call upon the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Bruce Doughton, to read the citation. Professor Doughton.
Chancellor, it gives me great pleasure to invite Ms. Jean Brick to come forward. Ms. Jean Brick is a 2012 winner of a Vice-Chancellor's citation for outstanding contribution to student learning, for excellence in fostering student understanding of the ways in which language and content are interconnected, and for inspiring students to express their own voice. Ms. Brick won her award for revealing to students the hidden curriculum of disciplinary language and its expression. Using the metaphor of voice, Ms. Brick facilitates students, many of whom do not have English as their first language, to recognise the ways in which members of a disciplinary or professional community use different identities and voices depending on their purpose and their audience. Ms. Brick assists our students to move from being consumers of the knowledge of more educated others to identifying as active, informed participants in an academic or a professional community with something to say and a voice with which to say it. Chancellor, I present to you a truly worthy recipient of the 2012 Vice-Chancellor's citation for outstanding contribution to student learning, Ms. Jean Brick, from the Department of Linguistics in the Faculty of Human Science.
Well, graduates and ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure at today's ceremony to honour, in accordance with a resolution of the University Council, Ms. Maggie Beer for admission to the degree of Doctor of Business Honoris Causa of Macquarie University. I now invite Professor Bruce Doughton to read the citation.
Chancellor, I invite Ms. Maggie Beer to stand for the citation. Chancellor, it is a distinct pleasure to present Maggie Beer, one of Australia's best-known cooks, restaurateurs, authors and businesswomen. Maggie Beer's renown arises from her co-hosting of the television program The Cook and the Chef, for 8 cookbooks and for her appearances on MasterChef Australia. Her 40-year career in growing, cooking and exporting high-quality Australian foods has led to significant benefits to the Australian tourism and hospitality industries. recognised in 2012 when she was appointed as a member of the Order of Australia. Maggie Beer was born in Sydney, where her parents were small business operators, manufacturers of aluminium kitchenware. She first entered the food industry when she and her husband Colin moved to the Barossa Valley in 1973 to begin grape growing and pheasant breeding. Opening 5 years later, their farm restaurant became particularly known for serving their locally raised pheasant and pâté. This restaurant operated for the next 15 years, with the highlight being the winning of the Remy Martin Gourmet Traveller Restaurant of the Year Award in 1991. Currently, Maggie Beer operates a business in the Barossa region, producing a range of gourmet foods, including her famous pâté, quince paste, bear juice, and ice cream. Her career has spanned farming, food production, exporting, food writing, and television presentation. With an extensive list of accolades and as recipient of numerous awards, Maggie Beer has attributed her successes to a simple formula: relate to the produce at hand, aspire endlessly for excellence and continuous improvement, and be dogged in doing what feels right. Chancellor, it is with extraordinary pleasure that I present to you Ms. Maggie Beer for the award of the degree Doctor of Business honoris causa.
Maggie Beer, in the name of the Council and by my authority as Chancellor, I admit you to the degree of Doctor of Business honoris causa. Congratulations, Dr. Beer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my very great pleasure to invite one of my all-time favourite Australians to deliver the occasional address. Please welcome Dr. Maggie Beer.
My goodness, Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, esteemed academics and graduates and guests, I really have to pinch myself. And what a beautiful voice Angela had. I just have to mention that. Voice is so important to me. But I'm the girl who left school at 14 with at least an intermediate certificate in hand. But my parents lost their business, our home and everything that went with it. And though I was offered a scholarship to stay on at school, even though my parents believed in me, and you've got to remember it was 1959, a long time ago, they said I was just a girl and it would be a waste. I should just become a secretary. In some strange way, it turned out so right for me, and the hardship actually set me up for life. Though I had no choice in the matter, in essence, I was never limited and I never followed a mould. And so my journey has been a creative endeavour with no boundaries. But it wasn't easy. It's so different for you today. You are the lucky ones. You are on a path, and hopefully it'll be easier than mine, but you will never reach your own potential without continually working on it. Perhaps there is something I can share to help you on your journey, and perhaps that is how I entered in business and how it came about. But I spent 20 years searching for what I wanted to do. 20 years. You've already found that. Even if it's the door for now, and that's just the beginning of your journey, and you may well duck and weave in different ways from each other, but you must always work at it. So I was 34 before I found what I was searching for, and it just fell into my lap. And when I look back on it, it was actually always there. But before you think I was a disadvantaged soul, let me tell you that I was brought up in a world of good food in our family, no matter what part of the income cycle we were on, from plenty to nothing. That was far from the norm in those days. I was brought up with a love of classical music, books and poetry, and an incredibly strong work ethic. We were just broke, more than broke, bankrupt. Which I suggest was a bigger deal than today. And in fact, there is some feeling in business that if you haven't failed a few times, you are never going to be an innovator or an entrepreneur, because you will always take safe route and be risk averse. So remember, any of you that falter, you learn and you become stronger. So even though this was sitting there, my love of food, that is, and my early foundations from my family, it still took me that 20 years. I tried so many jobs. Now, Chancellor, I got a job as a lift driver in New Zealand in a department store. Floor 1, menswear, travel goods. I still remember it. I was 19 years of age, and that was my first travelling. I went on to travel a great deal. And it was interesting because of the times, it wasn't as normal for everyone to have degrees to get into interesting jobs. Not that a lift driver was really an interesting job. But when I think the years I spent travelling in Europe at a time when you could get amazing jobs just with attitude and an ability to learn. Assistant to the geophysicist in Benghazi for British Petroleum. Cook in a sailing school. Oh, I shouldn't tell you that. I got sacked. But the thing is, I really see my life as a jigsaw where all the things I've undertaken have led to what I am today and what I do today, and nothing of the journey was wasted. I was always looking for what was interesting, what could challenge me, what could I learn, what could I put my teeth into, and I was open to try outrageous things like the jobs. And how did this frame me? It made me open to change, open to chance as well, to serendipity, and to know I had to love what I did to be engaged by it. And I urge you to do that. And the serendipity for me was in the form of meeting my husband Colin, a boy from Malala in South Australia, me from the western suburbs of Sydney. 44 years ago, we married 16 weeks after we met. We're risk takers. You know, risk taking is okay if you want to do something extraordinary. But you have to remember the times. So, and the times, as I said, you didn't have to have the degree that you have to have now, and you were so lucky to have this. You've worked so hard for it, but you have it in your hand. But in those days, newly married, without a job, either of us, secured a flat at Kirribilli for $20 a week, wow, but nothing on the horizon. But within no time at all, I got a job with the American Consulate General, and they put me through citizenship law as a citizenship law clerk. And as there was no handbook for this, as I said, it was about attitude and an ability to learn. And it was a job I loved, but more than that, I was lucky enough to have a boss who taught me then about accepting, critiquing, not criticism, but critiquing. So you never felt personally offended, and it led you to continually grow. The most valuable lesson ever. It was Colin's vision to farm pheasants and to go back to South Australia, and even though it took 20 years to be an overnight success, so, you know, hold on to your horses here. I'm not suggesting it'll take you that long, but yet, because it did, our base is so strong and a very important part of our business success. However, what you have, I'm envious of. You have your own network. You have your alumni. I can't emphasize enough the strength that will give you, the support of like-minded people. It really is something very, very special. But if I share what made a difference in business for us, the word has already been used today by the Vice-Chancellor. Persistent, I am obsessive and dogged, I admit. But I've never been tempted to stray from my original ideals, driven by flavour, by the premise of making the most of every bit of produce on my doorstep and that of my region and my state, of maximising what's possible so every part of a plant or animal is used, to be part of a society looking after our land. But I had no one to learn from in those days, because 1979, when we first opened our farm shop before the restaurant, it was a wilderness of good food, let me tell you, particularly in the country. But what I did was I looked to the traditions of the Mediterranean, because we live in a Mediterranean climate in the Barossa, and that was my learning. And the difference is I took those ideas and I made them to suit myself, my own palate, because if I was proud and loved it, I just assumed everyone else would. Always a selfish person, my family might tell you. But to use that germ of the idea, but to make it your own, to be outside of the pack, to be an individual. Never be tempted to take a shortcut. If something wasn't good enough, it wasn't used. Business, for those of you that go into business, is not a bed of roses. There are issues that continually crop up as a part of any enterprise. And whilst we never had a business plan, I wasn't sure I should say that here. I thought twice, but it's what we did. But we had something we believed in, and just in taking one step at a time and loving the journey and always learning more. But there were a couple of things that did help us along the way, and we both have lateral minds, Colin and I, and our girls, love solving problems. You know, I don't see problems as a barrier. I see them as something to jump over and go round. I was born an optimist, thanks to my mother and her zest for life. But if I'm honest, even through the bad times, and there were, it never occurred to us to give up. So I was writing this and wondering whether that was a lack of imagination or because we were enjoying the journey. I take the latter. And what's not to enjoy? Living in the beautiful Barossa, living the rhythm of the seasons, understanding what it is to eat something so ripe and fresh, it's perfect. Being connected to a community and belonging, and working very hard. But always looking for a better way to do things. I drive many people mad, my family and many of my business, but continuous improvement is not a catchphrase for me. It's how I live my life, but it's not because I'm never satisfied. It's far from that, but innovation comes from that, and so does a culture of having great people around you, something you never stop working on, and that doesn't happen easily, let me tell you. I have a strong belief that if people aren't right in a team, it's not right for them or for the business, and that understanding yourself and finding your niche is vital. Reject negative energy as it's a sapping life force and continue to learn and grow. Today, you've earned the first key to the door for many of you and well along the path for the others. Wow. On the path you've chosen, and it's a wonderful thing to achieve, but the journey for so many, well, it never stops. It is a beginning at every stage. There should be many more doors to be opened, many more things to be learnt, so you can find what you truly love to do. Then it will be your time to give back to society in whatever way is right for you. To give back to the university that has given you so much. That's when to give back is when your life, I believe, will truly be in balance. Not only do we have a responsibility in giving, when you give, you receive so much. Congratulations to you all, and thank you.
Well, how fortunate have we been today to have such a great occasional address delivered by such a great Australian. Maggie Beer's, I think, contribution to Australia is a contribution to our enjoyment of life. Countries culture is not just made up of its literature or its music or its art or its theatre or film or whatever. It's also very much dependent on how people enjoy life. And I don't know what it was about Australia, but certainly in the 50s and 60s that I can remember very vividly, we didn't know how to enjoy ourselves often. We certainly didn't know how to enjoy food. And what an important part of a country's culture and a country's life food is. And it's people like Maggie and Stephanie Alexander and others who have made that contribution, and they never get properly acknowledged in my view. So I'm delighted that Maggie has accepted our honorary degree today and has come all the way from the Barossa Valley. She really is one of my favourite Australians. People forget how, the stodge we used to eat in the 50s and 60s was just appalling, although we used to think it was quite good then, but we know better now. But I think Maggie's occasional address has underlined something else, and that is you can always turn adversity to advantage. So never give up, because throughout your life you will come across obstacles and occasionally things will look dreadful, but just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and you will triumph. Maggie, thank you very, very much for coming to Macquarie today. Let's give Maggie a round. Well, graduates, this ceremony marks the end of one stage in your relationship with Macquarie University, but it is certainly not the end of your association with Macquarie. From today on, for the rest of your lives, you are part of the bigger Macquarie family, which is our alumni, and part of the network of Macquarie alumni, which now spans the globe. We'll keep in touch with you through our alumni program, which is focused on lifelong learning, lifelong support and lifelong connections. Our commitment to you is to help you keep in touch and engaged with Macquarie throughout your life. And please do make sure you come back to Macquarie, either to undertake more study, to attend alumni events, or perhaps even to use our aquatic and fitness facilities. I was really pleased with one of our graduates today who, as I shook his hand, said, "I'll be back." I hope you all come back in one way or another. Well now, graduates, a university degree, of course, carries many opportunities and privileges, but like all privileges, it also carries responsibilities. Believe it or not, you, each and every one of you, can change the world. And you don't have to be a Nobel Prize winner to do it either, because almost everything you do, in your homes, in your workplaces, and in your communities matters and can make a huge difference. The consequences of every effort, every action, large or small, can reverberate throughout society through the decades, indeed the centuries. Even something as simple as a kind word or gesture can often be the spark that ignites a great life or a great career or a great achievement. So today, as Chancellor of Macquarie University, I charge you to use what you have learned, not only for your own benefit, but also for the betterment of the community. I charge you to use the skills and knowledge you have acquired with rigour and integrity, and to commit yourselves to a program of lifelong learning and inquiry. I charge you to recognise the worth and dignity of all people, particularly those who have not had the opportunities that you've enjoyed. I charge you to set high goals and to continue the hard work that has brought you so far. I charge you, wherever you go, to go with all your heart, and in all you do, I charge you to uphold the good name of Macquarie University. Now, graduates, I hope that you will also always remember the people who have helped you along the way, many of whom, of course, are here with you today. So to acknowledge their contribution and thank them for it, I'm now going to ask you to do a couple of things. Graduates, would you now please stand? I'd like you to put your degrees on the seats behind you so that your hands are free. And I'd like you to turn around and face your families and friends. And now I invite you to give them a mighty round of applause. Now, graduates, you can turn around, but don't sit down because we will be leaving in just a moment. Well, also, graduates up here on the dais are some people I'm sure you'd like to thank. They're the representatives of our academic community who have helped you through your journey, and I'm sure you'd like to join with me in thanking them too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the official party will now leave the graduation hall through the centre aisle, and we will be followed by all of the graduates. I would now invite you all to please now stand. And please remain standing until the last of the graduates have processed out. I hope that you will then join us in the marquee overlooking the lake for some light refreshments. There's even some ice cream for the children and people like me. I'm not sure that it's Maggie Beer ice cream, but I'm sure the kids will like it. Well, graduates, I wish you the very best for the future, and in the words of the old Irish blessing, may the road rise up to meet you, may the wind always be at your back, may the sun shine warm upon your face, and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you and good luck.